Well, as usual on a Sunday, we hear 3 readings. And reflecting on those for today, it struck me that the first is about faith, the second about hope, and the last, the Gospel we've just heard, about charity or love. Now, at the end of this Mass last Sunday, Father Keith made an impassioned plea for the transformation of this parish. Well, as Bishop, I often wonder, when the Lord looks at us, looks at, well, any congregation, all of us, the diocese, what would he like to see? What would make him smile, as it were? Or what does make him smile? And the answer is faith, hope, and charity in us. That's what makes us beautiful in his eyes. And here today are these 3. In the first reading, faith was mentioned twice. Paul and Barnabas, missionaries, were encouraging the new converts to persevere in the faith. And then in the Gospel, we heard Jesus saying, I give you a new commandment, love one another. Just as I have loved you, you too must love one another. And in the middle, in the second reading, came hope. Well, the word wasn't used, but what's described there, the new heaven and the new earth, is exactly what we hope for. Hope is very central to our lives, and here is hope in the middle of the 3 readings. A French poet once had this rather charming little picture. He imagined faith and charity as 2 elder, rather grown-up sisters going for a walk, and in the middle, between them, holding their hands, is their little sister, Hope. And she is jumping and skipping and hopping and always going ahead, pushing ahead, pulling them along. It's she, the little one, who's really leading the other 2. And that is a picture of hope. Or think of, taking a dog for a walk. Often you see people taking a dog for a walk, and really it looks as though the dog is taking them for a walk, because the dog is straining on the leash, the dog is getting excited about this and that, sniffing this, sniffing that, pulling ahead, sees a rabbit, that kind of thing. And it's our hope that keeps us believing and loving. It's hope that keeps us moving, hope that keeps us young, that stops us being cynical and miserable and moaning for Scotland, as it were. So, let's listen to this second reading. I, John, saw a new heaven and a new earth. The first heaven and the first earth had disappeared, and there was no more sea. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, as beautiful as a bride, all dressed for her husband. Well, there's a first thought, surely, how big our hope is. Often we tend to think of heaven almost selfishly. Heaven is where I'll be okay, I'll be happy, and see my friends again. But God's horizon is bigger. There will be a new heaven and a new earth, the whole of creation, the universe, nature, all transformed. We will have a new environment. And then there's this strange thing. There will be no more sea. Now, this is imagery, of course, and many people love the sea and would be rather sad to think that in heaven there will be no sea. But as a matter of fact, the ancient Israelites, the Jews, generally disliked the sea. To them, it was a very frightening thing, something huge and destructive and a source of chaos. So, there being no sea means that creation will no longer be a battleground between life and death, will no longer be undermined or threatened by anything within it. It's the same as we hear in Isaiah. The lamb and the lion will lie down together, side by side. A new world. And then I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, a whole new way of living together. There will be peace. Well, I know a 13-month-old baby who smiles at everyone he meets. That's quite remarkable. And it makes you a little sad, because you think, how long will that last? And when will that be knocked out of him? Because we don't smile at everyone we meet. Or if you were walking down Union Street at 2 a.m, you'd probably be careful not to smile at everyone you met. But in the heavenly city, we will, because each of us will be a wellspring, a bringer of joy to everyone else. We will just have delight in one another, and nothing but delight. And then he goes on, this city, this new human world will be as beautiful as a bride, all dressed for her husband. We will correspond completely to God's hope for us. In the beginning, we were made in his image and likeness, reflecting him, giving God back, as it were. Now, we're always in his image, thank God, but we're not always in his likeness. We are living, said St. Augustine, in the land of unlikeness. But in the New Jerusalem, the likeness will be restored to the image. Sin will be no more. God will delight in us, and we will delight in him. And so it goes on. You see this city, asks the angel. Here God lives among men. He will make his home among men. They shall be his people, and he will be their God. His name is God with them. There'll be a new world. There'll be new relations among ourselves, because God will be with us. At the heart of Jerusalem was the temple, the home of the living God, who had pitched his tent among his people and made a covenant with them. And so in the heavenly Jerusalem, we will be unbreakably, indissolubly bonded and married to God. He in us and we in him. He with us and we with him. And then there comes what, well, I think anyway, is the most wonderful line in the whole Bible. He will wipe away all tears from their eyes. There will be no more death, no more mourning or crying or sadness. The world of the past has gone. He will wipe away all tears, every tear, from their eyes. Well, you see mothers doing that to children often enough. But don't you think that behind the eyes of each of us, there's a kind of build-up of tears, a great sack of them, if you like? Isn't there, in the heart of each of us, a great bag of sorrow? Because every one of us in our lives has lost something precious sometime. Every one of us has been disappointed and hurt. Every one of us. Every one of us is secretly grieving over something, or maybe many things. Every one of us knows that the people we love are going to die, and we will too. And I think that when we do die, and we come before the Lord, this sack inside us will burst, and the tears, all the accumulated tears of our lives, will all pour out, and God will wipe away every single one of them. Now how, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. How the terrible evils of human history, of what we've done to each other over the centuries, How all that can be put right, I don't know. But we can cling to what we hear today. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. God's tender touch can do even that. And death will be no more, and there will be no more mourning or crying or pain, for the former things have passed away. So that's our hope. That's what keeps the little child skipping along, keeping our faith and love fresh. So, for example, when a loved one dies, we shouldn't just grieve, of course we do, but we can think of God wiping away every tear from their eyes. We can think of them entering, becoming a citizen of, adding to the population of that city above. Generation after generation, God is at work, secretly building the new Jerusalem out of us. And one day, he will reveal it to the eyes of all of us. Behold, I am making the whole of creation new. I make all things new. That's the last phrase of today's reading. It comes from the voice from the throne. In other words, from God the Father. And in the whole Bible, from Genesis to the end, to the Apocalypse, that is the last thing that God the Father says. That's the last word from God the Father himself in the whole Bible. Behold, I make all things new.